coincidentally, I've had a few people come to me with the same criteria. They've got about 25 grand, 30 on a good day, 35, and they want to buy something that ideally can do everything, one car, and they want it to make them smile and feel like a special sense of occasion. Obviously, we always lean, don't we, towards a 911, a Cayman, stuff like that. And I've recently driven F-Types and even a V8 Mustang, which could be quite a good shout. But as someone who's quite petrol-heady myself, I always forget about the Evora. Don't we all forget about the Evora for some reason? I think when you think of Lotus, you immediately think Exige and Elises and cars that are full of compromise for the most reward. And we forget that actually Lotus did do their GT daily usable car. So the big question is this a hidden gem that we all need to be rushing to buy, or was it forgotten for a reason? Let's find out. The interior of the Lotus Evora. Now, I've been in an Exige 410 Sport before, and my assumption was that this was going to feel quite Spartan like that. And it was basically going to be an Alcantara steering wheel, a little bit of metal, and away you go. But I had actually underestimated how nice it was going to be in here. Does it trade blows with the German cars and things? I think it does. And maybe not having them side by side, and maybe I'd spot little details or plastics that would be nicer, but this is definitely a lot nicer than I thought it was going to be. It's got a very simple, timeless design in here. I really like the way this dashboard flows here. It doesn't have one of those, oh, that was current 15 years ago. You've got splashes of carbon everywhere, which is lovely, and again, feels quite sporty. And I would say that things are a lot better than I thought they were going to be. Aging Alcantara wheels, they never look that great, but it feels good in the hand, and it does remind you you're in something properly sporty. It's really simple, it's very driver focused. The buttons have got a nice tactile feel to them. Or have they? No. Oh, hang on, I was pushing too hard. Okay, so onto the practicality. Now, I'll be honest, I had higher hopes. That is my slight disappointment of this car. Now, it looks absolutely stunning. Proportionally, I don't think I'd want any part of it changed. The boot, the 170 odd litres, 160 odd litres suggests more space, but I think the shape of it is golf club compatible, but not much else. If you took soft luggage away for a week's trip around Europe together, which the owner Doug has done with his wife, then that does work. It is okay, but it's not much else you can get in there. It's very, very narrow. The 2+2 element, it is an option that you can have the rear seats removed, and you can, by the looks of things, have a bit more stiffening here and a little kind of luggage cargo net there. Now, I suspect that's where all of a sudden it has that 911 practicality to it again, because thinking about it, you can get quite a lot back here, but as for extra people, if seats were there, I cannot imagine how horrendous that would be. I cannot imagine. I don't think you'd ever get an adult in there. Maybe one here if someone else had their knees through the windscreen, but let's call it a two-seater with a bit more space. Overall, comfy. It doesn't feel claustrophobic. It feels sporty and focused. And speaking of which, I think we should get it out. That is awesome. My God. So how does this Lotus Evora S drive? Well, first things first, yes, you're going to hear words like raw, you're going to hear words like visceral, because I don't think there's many other words that describe it so well. Compared to the Exige 410 Sport that I drove, I will actually say it's surprisingly dialed back. From memory of that, I was expecting the steering to be extremely heavy and just constantly lively and feeling every single thing in your hands. And it's not quite like that. But given this car's mission statement, I think that makes sense. You see, this is hydraulic steering in this car, and in the Exige, it's nothing. It's just you, completely unassisted. It's a car that within one gear change, I went, this is going to be brilliant. And you know, some cars, they sometimes don't always win you over until you've had that good special drive, or you're on the right road and you've seen what it can do in the bends. With a Lotus, every granular input and everything you get back in seconds, it just feels right. And it feels like, I know why I chose something else. I know why I've made compromises for this experience. Let's start with the steering quickly. It is full of information, and I people say this stuff all the time, but God above, this is spectacular. It's not exhausting, it's not too twitchy, dead off center. It's got just enough play in it that you're not constantly wired like that, but it feels superb. So I guess we should talk about the engine really, shouldn't we? It's a 3.5 litre Toyota V6. I think this is old news. I think we all know this now. It always makes me laugh when there's some salty little gremlin. Oh yeah, it's from a Camry. Oh, shut up. You probably drive an Astra and you're just angry about it. Who gives a crap? When you buy an exotic car, you want the damn thing to work, don't you? And who better than Toyota to do that? Bizarrely, it's mated to a Toyota Avensis diesel gearbox. Now, obviously, they've made changes and adapted bits and pieces to make it make sense. And I'm sure somebody somewhere will find a reason that should be a criticism, and it's not quite as nice as it should be. The only criticism I could have of this gearbox is that it's not the world's most precise, and it takes a little bit of hunting around to find the exact gear you're looking for. It's not instinctive. Overall, it's got a nice throw, it's got a lovely weighting to it. It goes into each slot satisfyingly when you find it. Then, of course, you can start making this thing howl. I think it's one of the only modifications to this car is the exhaust, and I'm going to put the details on screen now of the exact setup, but it sounds incredible. We've got a quiet mode, we've got the fun mode. To be honest, there's piss all difference, so you better get used to the idea of it sounding fun and ridiculous. It never lets you forget that what you're driving is something special. And I know a V6 isn't the most romantic engine in a lot of people's eyes, but this is just fun and it's silly. In terms of power, in the S model, we're talking about 345 brake horsepower. And I'll be perfectly honest, I expected it to feel quicker when I first got in. I think sometimes you meet your heroes and you have expectations that are a bit too high. Does that mean that I was disappointed? No, it's bloody quick. It's so fast. It's undeniably exciting. There's so much torque and so much power pretty much everywhere in the rev range. You can pick a gear that's far too high and it will still launch you everywhere you go. Whilst we're stuck behind a tractor, we'll talk about the ride quality. And I have to say, the fact that this is the first time I've even thought to note the ride says how comfortable it is. Because often a road starts beating you up a little bit and jolting you around, and the steering wheel's fidgeting a bit, and you go, yeah, this is a car that's made for the track, but not the British B road. It just works. It's comfortable, it's not too fidgety, going over lumps and bumps doesn't really bother me at all. And yet, having tossed this thing around in some bends, there's no part of it that wants to lean and feel sloppy either. I'm really, really impressed with how they've just got this balanced. I could do this all day. These brakes are just incredible. They are so instinctive. This is one of the best cars I've driven in a very long time. It is absolutely remarkable. Would this make me feel like I have to have the Evora S in the line? Well, I'm one of these people that I'm not a willy waver in a pub. I don't give a shit. I don't care about telling people how much power my car has. And if the Evora handles pretty much as good as this and clearly has enough power at 276 brake, I would be a very happy boy. And if that saved me 10 grand, I would do that. Now, I haven't driven one, and that's something I would love to hear from anybody in the comments. If you've owned both or driven both, let me know what you think and help others watching this clear up if it's worth the extra spend. If your budget was always in that higher, kind of 32, 35 grand mark and you can get into an S, I can bloody see why you would. They haven't ruined it with that ride. It is exceptional, and perhaps I'm underestimating just how much better this handles than a standard Evora. It just appears to have got everything right. I don't feel like anything's too much or too little. Whee. Oh, it never gets old. Toyota reliability. Superb. Does that mean that everything else was made by Toyota? No. And there are known to be a few niggles and potentially electrical issues here and there. Some quality control issues from what I understand, where maybe little bits of trim or little bizarre parts of the interior don't quite hold up. Tiny little rattles, things peeling, lacquer peeling in places. And okay, it might upset people that they spent a lot of money on a high quality product and it has these kind of early Tesla level manufacturing issues, but overall I'd much rather have that and not really care about a few bits of this and that when the important things stay held together. The thing I will quickly say is I've not owned this, I've driven this for minutes, haven't I? And JM on Cars, as you all know by now, one of the best YouTubers and car journalists out there, he bought an Evora 400 from new, and he went through the dealership network and experiences when things didn't go to plan and when he had frustrating issues. And for him, it became a deal breaker in the end, I believe. I don't want to speak for him, but it began to irritate him and he felt very let down by some of the Lotus dealers in the network. And it didn't seem to have the same specialness and care for their customers that Porsche do, for example. One of the things you have to think about is how far away you are from a decent Lotus specialist near you. And that, yes, you can take your car to Toyota, but it doesn't mean that they know how to work on anything other than the engine and the gearbox. So it is something to consider. So practicality, 2 large suitcases behind the seats, much to my surprise. Gives you that boot back, which is nice, the comfort's decent, and the ultimate test is how happy is your partner, who's not necessarily a petrol head, to be in it for a long trip. And thankfully, his wife has been more than happy to go all over Europe, really long road trips, southern Europe from the UK, right up into Scotland as well, time and time again, and they've absolutely loved it. So it seems to have met the brief. A 5-litre Mustang for the same kind of money has masses more space. I cannot express that enough. The boot is huge. The rear seats are generous. You can actually fit an adult in there without hating them. It still has a specialness in the UK at least, because we don't have really many Mustangs here. It's got that big thunderous 5-litre V8. And actually, that's bizarrely where I would point a lot of people for that car that feels a bit different on the road, feels like a bit of a naughty treat to yourself, but can actually do the daily things well. The 911 is an interesting one because I've recently fallen in love with them and I finally got what the experience is all about. They drive in a unique way, they make you smile, they feel engaging. But when you look at what you get for your money, it's an interesting one because, let's say a 997, if you're talking Evora money, you're just getting into the 997.2, which has that much more trouble-free engine that everyone feels far more safe about. And you're buying a car that's kind of 2009 at best and kind of the cheapest of that range. And yet for a car like this, you can get a car that's 5 years newer. Which would I pick? I don't know. The child in me that wants to be excited every time I get in a car would pick the Evora. It drives so far even better than that amazing 996. And had the 997.2 that I was supposed to review 2 days ago, had that had started when I rocked up to go and film it, I'll be able to tell you how they compare. But do subscribe because I will be getting to that very soon. I think if you're someone that wants to blend in with your background and doesn't want to feel like you're asking people to look at you, then obviously that's what's beautiful about a Porsche these days, is that most people don't turn their head for most of them unless they're an extreme model. And a lot of people enjoy that. They like parking it somewhere and not feeling like what's going to happen when I come back. But if you want to tick off that bucket list feeling of I once owned a supercar, basically, I know this isn't technically a supercar, but it's as bloody good as, isn't it? Then the Lotus to me is in a league of its own for how special it feels. What else is there left? Well, an F-Type. I have to say, this for me beats the F-Type all day long. It has that ridiculous, monstrous V6 thing going on that only the F-Type really seems to pull off. And yet it's so much more inspiring to drive. Have you noticed, as a whole, I haven't spoken about spec too much because a Lotus is about feeling and the numbers don't really matter too much. But for those who care, you know, it's about 4.8 to 60 or so for the regular Evora. It's about 4.6, 4.4, I think, for this supercharged one. It's around 1,400 kilos. Some say 1,350, some up 14 and a bit. I'm guessing based on some slight differences with the engine or the gearbox or something, but you know, 1,400 kilos is still lightweight in today's money. When you're looking at the new M5 weighing about 5 tons, that's for sure. I'm trying to think what else I would compare this to. I haven't driven a Cayman yet, but another plug for the channel, please do like and subscribe, because I'm going to drive a Cayman GT4 in about a week. So that'll be very exciting to see what the Cayman is all about. Not that they're comparable money, but you know, if it's not evident enough, I bloody love this thing and I want one a horrible amount. I think I'll be very happy in an entry-level Evora. I don't think I'd need much more. So the last thing before we log out and get on with our lives is I would love for your support and for the extra bonus content and things on my Patreon. And if you could be one of those people that just temporarily, for a while, permanently, whatever you like, want to chuck a few dollars or a few pounds a month on Patreon, it'd be incredible. There's going to be a little bit behind the scenes stuff. There's going to be some videos that I've actually pulled down from YouTube for reasons I'll explain there, but they'll be there to watch. And I'm also going to make it my place for primarily answering Q&As, because I get about 150 comments a week across my videos. So it's very hard to keep up with them all if I'm having a busy week. So please do consider that. But overall, like and subscribe, hit the bell notification, because I never say that. And I very much look forward to seeing you in the next one. I want to say a huge thank you to Doug from Nightfall Drives. Please do go and check out his channel. He's an absolutely delightful guy, and his series on owner reviews is actually a really refreshing format. So go and watch that, and thank you again.